interactive object stuff, right? So last week we introduced the concept, or even the week before, I think we briefly introduced mix-ins. So the idea here is that you might think it's like an abstract class or an interface class that has its own implementation, but the idea is that these are things that we can compose together at runtime, right? We want to be able to develop a library of components that can talk to each other that a non-programmer or a designer could use to implement class-like behavior. And so by taking the compiler out of that process, you increase iteration time, you decrease development time, and you actually write stronger code, because if you were to unit test these components individually, the range of behaviors is really small. A mixin only does one thing, right? A mixin by definition only implements one method, and so once you've written that once, you never have to do it again. So we're going to try and prove the case by extending our library a bit further and developing this sword thing that we can pick up when we touch it. Do we have all the mix-ins we need for that? It's close, right? So we've got this touchable, equipable thing. When we walk up to it and touch it, we want to equip it in the slot that matches, right? So this, if you remember, this equipment slot thing on the body, this is equipable behavior, has a slot type. And we said we're going to support items of, or slots of this type. And the algorithm is going to be that we're going to search through the guy who touched us, or the recipient, and we're going to see if there's anything in its hierarchy that has a slot type that matches. And if there's any slot type that matches, and that slot is empty, we're going to add the item to that slot. Before we do that, we need to kind of, and I think we talked about what we're going to do, but we didn't actually fully spec out is equipable, is equip slot. So is equip slot is a mix-in that attaches to what? Right, so some game object or a bone in the hierarchy where the slot's going to go. And so it's probably going to be something on one of the transforms in the arms or the feet or whatever. So it has a type, but it doesn't really have any data structure to track a reference to the actual object that's going to be in the slot. Right? We want to have a variable where we can say, yeah, here's the object that is slotted in us, because that's how we'll know if we're empty or not empty. We have a type, but we don't know if it's a full slot or not. So we need to add something. How should we represent the weapon or the item or the equipable thing that is in this slot? It's a reference to a game object, right? So if that's empty, if that's null, this slot doesn't have anything in it. If that's not null, it means it's pointing to something that was slotted. So the hand is full, or the head has a helmet on it.
So basically, once we equip something, we're filling in that.
We're going to set that reference.
We're setting that reference up.
Yeah. So we're going to do that. So this is the actual reference to the object, to the slotted object, right? With that in mind, we're good to go back to equipable. Did we connect the touch event to the equip function call? So when you actually go to the sword, our touch types is this player, and then the first callback is equip. So we are going to call equip. All right. So let's fill that in. We need to search through the hierarchy of the recipient, find the slot that's open, and set it. Do we set the recipient in touchable? No, we do not. That's what we need to add. So what do we have put here? Equipable. Now you're starting to see a pattern here, right? We've still got this this pain point here. We've got this one method where we have to keep updating it for all the different types that we add to the system. We are going to have to refactor this, but now that we've got like 3 or 4 examples here, it's going to be more and more clear what that needs to be. Eventually, this thing shouldn't have to be extended as we add more mix-ins. It should happen automatically. Did I spell equipable right? Equipable. It was okay? Let's see.
Lowercase I.
Very good. This dot game object dot. Come on, buddy. Component. There you go. Not a good day today. What's going on? So let's keep in mind, just in back of our mind what we want, how we want to change that thing. Fix to do. This needs to be streamlined. Alright, so that recipient's going to get set. So back in the equipable, we can do the equip. We have a recipient now. Right? Go back to the slot. Touchable. We just extended it, right? We just added our copy paste stuff here in this kind of not the most ideal way, and then I made a note. This needs to be streamlined. We need to re-implement something here so that we don't have to keep doing this, and we're going to need to have an advanced feature of C# to do that. Okay, but once we have some more behavior in here, then there'll be a time to go back and refactor. So that's called refactoring. When you see, yeah, this is not really maintainable, let's change something, but don't break anything. Okay, coming back. So back to the equipable, we want to do the hierarchy search. What do? Look for all slots. Who are we searching slots on? The recipient, right? Which is the player. So let's just make sure we have one. Okay, if we have one. How do we get all slots on the player? Yeah, recipient dot get components in children, because we want to search the whole hierarchy. There might be a slot on the root. It might be like if we're doing a car or some kind of weird like tank treads, it might be on the root of the object. Maybe that's what we're gonna do. Or it might be in the hierarchy somewhere. Is it equipable or equipment slot that we're searching for? Yeah, it's slot. Now we're going to search for the first empty slot that matches. What does it mean for a slot to match? What does it mean for a slot to match? So an item has a slot type, and a slot has a slot type, right? Slot can be hand, foot, chest, etc. So we'll see if the slots type matches the items type. Where's the items type?
Is slot supposed to have a capital L?
This array here?
No. If IES dot slot, is that?
That's right. That's the equipment slot dot slot. Right, so that's just referring to the variable of type eSlot on the equipment slot. So it'll be something of that type. Yeah, I don't know, it looks italic.
Oh, okay.
That's weird, I don't know what that was. Yeah, it looked different. Okay. What are we checking this against?
If it's 0.
Because I've got the weird L there up there too. We want to see if the equipment slot matches the equipable items slot. So if it matches slot type, right? If the slots type matches the items type. If the slot is empty, insert it. we check if the slot's empty.
Like we check if it's empty,
Mm-hmm.
if it's null.
IES dot what is null?
Dot slot.
Slot is the slot. Good. Slot is the enumeration. OBJ, right? Right.
Yeah.
So inequipable if the OBJ is null. Insert it. Okay, so it's actually in there. We want to now actually also make the item attached to the bone that has the slot. As a first pass of doing this auto sort of pickup thing, we want to connect it so that whatever that bone does that I'm attached to, it should inherit its rotation and translation. How can we do that easily? What's the easiest way to do that? To make a game object follow the rotation and translation of another game object.
Child, make it a child.
Yeah, so let's do that. So this like what? Who's the child of what? Transform. Dot parent. This game object's transform has a parent. So this item has a parent. What is this item's parent?
Well, this item is in reference to the sword, right?
Right, because this is an equipable thing. Wherein is equipable. So the sword's transform has going to have a parent transform. What should its parent transform be?
Now it should be the player. Right hand?
The slottable object. The transform with that it has the slot on it.
Yeah.
In the inside the player. Yeah. So what's that?
Would it be the right hand? Movable parent object?
Where's the bone right now? Where's the object that has the slot?
Depends on the enumeration type, right?
So I'm looping over all equipment slots that were got from get components in children. So I've got all the slots in the hierarchy of the player. I found one that matches.
Right?
So what's the game object?
IES.
IES is the slot.
Yeah.
Dot game object. Dot transform. So the game object that has the slot, its transform is the parent transform of the item that's being put in the slot. And that way it'll attach. Let's see. Odds of this working? 62%. I'll put a little freeze rotation on there because I'm tired of it flying off in the sky. And we go and grab it. Bonk.
Yeah, his sword's flying around.
It's attached, isn't it?
Little jokes.
If we attack,
It's like our sandwich.
Magic.
it's a hovering sword. It's like a. If I hit my attack spell, it's clearly doing something.
Oh my gosh, legit.
Is that exactly what we wanted?
Somewhat.
Maybe kinda, but not really.
Yeah,
But sorta.
A little bit more.
Is it exactly in the hand?
No.
No. We forgot to do something. What does it mean for a transform to be in world space? If a transform does not have a parent and it is in world space, what coordinates are the transform's coordinates in?
The world.
The worlds, which means the origin is at 0, 0, 0, and it has no rotation. It is as if it were parented to an object at 0, 0, 0 with no rotation. If we put a game object as a child of another game object, whose coordinates is the child in? The parents. So when we say we want an object to be attached to another object, and we say we want it to be right at the same spot, what does that mean we need to set its position to?
0.
Exactly. So we've got position and local position. Which do we want to set to 0? Position says the position of the transform in world space. Local position says the position of the transform relative to the parent transform. There you go. local position equals vector 3 dot 0. And we're going to say something about orientation too. The rotation. Local rotation. Hey, that's cool. We'll just say no rotation relative to the local. So keep the rotation of the parent. We may change that when we do IK and attach handles and something a little more sophisticated. We may have the hands actually connect to different spots, like actually on the hilt or actually on the whatever, on the bat left, whatever we implement. But I like that. Let's see if this gets us any further. Go back to the sword. Looks pretty good. Let's try it. So does this guy walk? Yeah, he does. So if I kind of turn to face him and then walk forward. Hey, what happened? What happened? Come on, hero. Let's have a look. That's our whoa. That's our hero. And if we attack, boom. That's not bad. Maybe there needs to be a 90-degree rotation or something because the sword should be like in the hand, not like sticking out of the hand. But we could, work on this a little bit more if we wanted to, right? Maybe I'll make you do that in your assignment. Because clearly it's attached nicely and it doesn't break when we do our attack. And then how can we tell if it's actually slotted correctly? What should we check in the inspector? Yeah, what hand is it in? Is it in his left hand?
Right.
Oh, it's in his left hand.
That's his right hand.
It's in both hands. It's in both hands. How could it be in both hands? So it's a single-handed item and it is in both hands and it is attached to the right. It's actually rendering attached to the right, but both the left and the right slots claim that they have a sword in them. Why is that? Is there a logical bug in our is equipable? What do you think? Does that make sense given what we wrote? What does our algorithm do? Yeah, and then what?
And does it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to break. It needs to break after it finds the first.
Correct. We want to find the first open slot. We want to find the first open slot. That matches. That should fix something. Let's try that again. We'll do our very slow rotation. Okay, I'm going to fix that in a second. And then ka-chunk. Who's got it? Left hand has a sword. Right hand does not have a sword. So it claims to be in the left hand. It's drawing in his left hand. So I like it.
Oh yeah, the left hand was the sword. The left hand was the shield. That's what. Bro.
Sword is the shield. It's a parrying dagger.
Well, if we wanted to be in the right hand and not in the left hand, what's a quick thing we could do? Let's just test. If we said left hand, if we don't want the sword to find the left hand, what can we do to the left hand? None, right. This is not don't put anything in there. Let's see what happens. Turn. Tonk. Boom. Okay. Neat. What if, for whatever reason, left we don't want him to pick up something there. Maybe we're making some weird character and, it puts swords on his head. For whatever reason. Is this going to work? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it points out.
Dun,
Boom, it's a helmet. It's a top hat. So we've got a neat little system, right? We could do helmets now, we could do boots now. Not bad. Questions about that?
Can we do a debug real quick?
Yeah, mine is over here.
Yeah. It says my Secoto has no receiver.
Just let's take a pause and then we'll sync back in a